an outbreak of major fire. Russia has recently seen an outbreak of major fires, as well as confirmed drone attacks against its territory. In Moscow, the carefully engineered image of urban sophistication in its financial district was broken along with the glass in the facade of one of the skyscrapers as drones loaded with explosives plunged towards the targets. Elsewhere, in illegally occupied Crimea, Russian tourists were treated to images of smoke billowing above the bridge spanning the Kerch Strait. All of that forming part of a war that, according to Russian propaganda, isn't even a war. So should Ukraine try and take the conflict to Russian territory, and would the arrival of an imminent threat serve as a rude awakening for the Russian society, or rather as another impulse to rally around the flag? Joining us now is Chris Morris, teaching fellow at the University of Portsmouth. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, great to be here, thank you.
So, this is an eternal dilemma that many countries have actually been engaging in recently. Should we give Ukraine weapons to strike against Russian territory, or should we not? And what do you think of this debate, really? Because it kind of shows the asymmetry of this conflict in a way that, for some reason, some people think that Russians should be able to maintain this military pressure against their neighbor, while at the same time their society might be blissfully unaware that there is any war going on.
Absolutely. So for the duration of this conflict, there has been this long-standing disparity where Russia has been able to strike Ukraine fairly severely, and it is increasingly engaging in strikes against both infrastructure and civilian populations. On the other hand, the way that Russia is framing these attacks within its own territory, it often tries to frame them as a terroristic response, which stands in stark contrast to its own actions within Ukraine. So there is absolutely a disparity. Now, could the provision of Western arms contribute to resolving this disparity, and could they be used within Russian territory? At this juncture, we already know that Ukraine possesses both the resolve and the equipment that it needs to effectively commit to strikes within Moscow, the capital city, and throughout the adjoining Russian regions. So it really is we've already reached that conclusion in many ways.
But it is still walking a fine line in a way, right? Because some countries and some political leaders are likely to say we should avoid escalation, whatever that means. But also, some people say that perhaps striking against Russian territories directly, using missiles, artillery strikes, airstrikes, and so on, would take away this lack of moral ambiguity, which the war has is still actually, one could say, featuring, in a way that Ukraine is the victim here and Russia is the aggressor, and so by not retaliating against any targets which would be deemed beyond the going beyond military targets, and perhaps attacking targets where civilians could at least partially be exposed to any sort of damage, Ukraine would be in some way at least eroding this sort of lack of ambiguity, and perhaps placing itself within the ambit of further criticism.
Absolutely. So Ukraine has been, it's secured an awful lot of support from Western nations and other nations around the world. And part of the condition for this support, you could say, is that it maintains the values and standards of the international community. And to this point, it has done so with remarkable effectiveness. It has definitely maintained a positive perception around the world, and it has showed far more restraint than its partner in the conflict, Russia. So that's definitely a key consideration as well, not eroding the goodwill of the international community. That said, the fact that Ukraine has already engaged in these strikes, there are plenty of military targets or military adjacent targets that Ukraine could legitimately strike within Russia.
And this is a fair point there. In the meantime, while we're talking, we're seeing images from civilian targets that were destroyed in Ukraine, including a shopping center that for some reason was deemed a legitimate target by the Russians. So there is this stark contrast that you've mentioned, but also there is the question of how the society in Russia would react. And now, what would be your bet in this regard? Because some people say, well, they might actually rally around the flag even further. If they feel threatened, they might say, well, we need to stand with Putin in this difficult moment. Others say perhaps they might actually see that this is not a special military operation after all. It is plain and simple, a war. And so, do we really want to take part in a war? Do we really want to feel threatened? And that might actually get them thinking. What is your take on that?
Well, I think to begin with, we've got to reflect why Russia is so heavily invested in these strikes against civilian targets and civilian infrastructure. In many ways, Russian behavior is a tacit admission that they cannot rely on their armed forces to carry through their initial mission. So instead, what they're trying to do is intimidate and induce hardship within the Ukrainian civilian population. So that's one thing that we need to be mindful of there as well. On the other hand, committing to a series of strikes within Russia, I suppose in many ways that could help bring home to the Russian people that this is a very real conflict and they are part of a war. Now, the information environment within Russia it's very terse at the moment. It's probably very difficult for an average Russian citizen to get a true picture of what is going on in the conflict. But increasingly, it's increasingly difficult for the Russian state to conceal what is going on. Not so long ago with the kind of Wagner insurrection and now these strikes that have been taking place in very high-profile locations, one has to ask, the reality must be hitting the Russian population. If not now, then at some point in the very near future.
And it certainly has been happening in Crimea, which is not Russian territory. It is, from the perspective of international law, still part of Ukraine. But we've seen this sort of influx of Russian tourists, many of them perhaps being related to the local officials and also forming part of this propaganda drive that, look, this is an absolutely excellent holiday destination, except there are explosions in the distance, so this seems to ruin that carefully orchestrated image created for the public consumption at home. How do you think this is going to influence the ongoing campaign?
Well, again, it's one more indication for the Russian people that things are not business as usual. In addition to the kind of problems that they're experiencing in their occupied territories, we've also got to factor in that largely because of this conflict, the Russian ruble is currently at a it's in very poor condition at the moment. The Russian economy is suffering. There is mass unemployment. Well, there's always mass unemployment in Russia. But then again, increasingly, it's becoming increasingly difficult for the Russian state to present business as usual. The facade of normality is crumbling increasingly.
Do you think that all the tools which the West has at its disposal are being used to the sufficient extent in order to curb this sort of aggressive behavior on the part of Russia? I mean, Russia, while bombing civilian targets in Ukraine, while also engaging in many other questionable authorities, such as placing nuclear weapons in Belarus, possibly meddling in Niger, for example, just listing the most recent events, is still a member of the Security Council. And some people are looking at the UN and asking, what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I suppose the international community is engaging in a very careful balancing act when it comes to Russia. On the one hand, I would say on behalf of the majority of states, there is a definite desire to sanction Russia and restrict its actions in Ukraine. Unfortunately, there is also the need to balance the global interests of the international community to effectively, you've got to consider that excluding, I suppose, Russia from the UN would also remove one of the, I suppose, very few levers that we have to check their behavior. So that's one aspect of it as well. There's a very carefully curated balancing act going on there, I would say.
But what about the UN Security Council itself? It is supposed to be a body that is intended to maintain peace and stability. And now, having a member that goes right against those principles and yet cannot be outvoted or removed because of the structure of the Security Council seems to go again to undermine the very purpose of that. And that is why some people have been advocating actively to restrict Russia's rights there, because otherwise, no binding action will be taken because Russia will always be able to veto that.
Yes. Well, this really cuts to the heart of a long-standing inequality with the way the UN Security Council is structured. There are 5 permanent members that have been standing pretty much since the end of the Second World War. Now, it's interesting that long-standing debate is now coalescing around Russia. This could be the impetus that leads to systematic change in how the UN Security Council is orientated. That said, it's going to be a very big ask to change this. The idea of Russia giving that position up willingly, that's certainly not going to happen. So it would require massive structural and legislative change to the way the UN is organized. That said, with the building resistance, I would not entirely rule that out from happening.
Do you think that China is going to be able to, essentially jump on the bandwagon here? Or will they be fiercely opposing any drive for change because they might still see the current situation as favorable to themselves if, at some point, they choose to take action in Taiwan? Again, this would be a very convenient position for them, sitting on the Security Council and being able to veto any actions proposed by other members.
Yes, in these conditions, it's very easy to be cynical about the UN, particularly the Security Council. Are its interests really orientated around international security, or is it simply a vessel for national interest? Now, at this current juncture in history, it does seem to be fulfilling that role as a way for powerful nations to exert their national interests on the world stage, with Russia and China perhaps leading the charge in this regard. But in many ways, that's business as normal. Particularly, this could be returned to that Cold War paradigm where states would simply use the international community and the UN Security Council to prevent their adversaries from taking action.
So overall, we have this sort of flawed international order maintained by organizations which, for what they're worth, they are actually taking some action there. At least they provide a forum for discussion. But on the other hand, there is an open question of sanctions, which you've already mentioned. Now, do you think that more decisive steps, such as perhaps the confiscation of frozen Russian central bank assets, could prove useful here? Or should we go down a different route, targeting perhaps companies operating in Russia so that ordinary people are more exposed to the fact that Russia is now targeted by sanctions, so their living standards may actually go down, perhaps forcing them to understand that having Putin at the helm is no longer a sustainable option?
Absolutely. So the economic front of this war is one of the critical battlefields. And absolutely, there is more to be done. There are still Western companies that are doing business with Russia and contributing to the Russian they're paying taxes in Russia. So this is very negative. On the other hand, you've got to ask, at this point, there's very little that I suppose Western countries can do to Russia that Russia is not already doing to itself. So the Russian economy is not exactly great at the moment. As I mentioned earlier, the Russian ruble is plummeting. And Russian people are going to be experiencing mass hardship themselves. But then again, things have never been too rosy in Russia for most people. But yeah, definitely one of the things that we should be doing, or we should be, I suppose, accelerating is, in particular, bringing that economic hardship to Russia's elites, making it difficult for them to do business. And in addition, ensuring that Western companies do not continue to contribute to the Russian purse by doing business there and paying taxes.
Okay.
Is a very
Here
important
I am, Holy Book.
Apart from obviously also targeting all those entities which facilitate the evasion of sanctions, what do you think Western governments should do to these companies?
How are you doing, guys? Hey yo.
In many cases, they are also, providing a large number of jobs to people at home. And so there is going to be that dilemma. Okay, so should we actually impose, for example, increased taxes on them to disincentivize this sort of behavior? But can we do that? Because they will always have lobbyists at home, perhaps trying to convince local politicians, members of the elites to perhaps, to stand with them in this moment and to prevent any such measures from being taken. Do you think that we're up to the task right now?
Yeah.
As the collective West, so to say?
Yes.
It does bring into focus the alarming level of power and influence that transnational corporations can wield. The fact that often in disregard to their own, what you'd think would be their host countries'
I've got coffee, I've got
they
beer.
are able to effectively continue to do business in
I'm doing
stark
well.
disregard to, again, the will of countries where they are nominally based. So it is a real, I suppose, limitation with the existence of transnational corporations. You do question the extent to which states do continue
but
to
happy,
hold the
happy
leash
but drunk.
on these entities, given that they are able to operate in this manner.
The fact that the same companies which are engaging in the so-called CSR practices, corporate social responsibility, apparently does not really extend to not empowering an authoritarian regime which is currently waging an aggressive war against its neighbor. Unfortunately, this sort of corporate hypocrisy is likely to remain with us unless certain steps are actively taken.
Ooh, which steps?
I guess today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for
Which steps, you pussy?
Thank you so much.
And I'm Asher
I'm not
Vitsky.
getting
You're
the
watching
steps.
TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.
Nice. Well, let me fix this for a second. Oh shit, what did I click on? Oh. I wanted to just click on the other tab and I accidentally turned it off. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Admiral Doppelbock, what is that? Can you introduce the Admiral to us? By the way, yeah, the stream today is starting a bit earlier, tiny little bit earlier. Because I have to finish a bit earlier too. So I just kind of felt like it would make sense to start earlier and to walk you through the topics, you know, nicely and slowly and on time. Because we gotta go through a revolution in Serbia, the Bulldozer Revolution. I was planning to also watch Georgia video. I saved the Georgia video yesterday. We haven't gone through it, so maybe that one. I've saved a couple of news, so we may... Oh, did I turn on the bot? I did, okay. I need to turn it on properly. Okay, I guess he's working. So, I have a bunch of plans on what to go through. But the important thing is... Okay, I have to show you the Bulldozer Revolution thing. I was up until like 5 in the morning. 5 in the morning. It's a history stream. The Bulldozer Revolution specifically is a history stream because I had to do research on Bulldozer Revolution yesterday, and then I was like, you know what would be great? To talk about it on stream because I already have it. I do also have current stuff going on saved in the news, but we will go through the Bulldozer Revolution as the main thing for now because I feel we haven't really gone through it, to be honest. Let me open it in another tab. Oh really? He mentioned me in a good way. I'm so happy for that. I'm so happy for that, thank you. I'm happy to be perceived in a good light. That makes me feel very happy, unironically. Thank you. Thank you so much for introducing me to the man. This was really fun. I'm looking forward to Vojvodina today. I've got a bunch of sources already saved in links from previously, so I need to... It's like with this one. There's a bunch of links here, right? So like the red ones, the ones I've marked red, these are quotes from links which are before the revolution. Then you have green, which is during the revolution, and you have yellows, which is why the revolution succeeded. And I had all of these links like saved, but I didn't have them properly filed. They were just like in a map. So it was really interesting to go through all of them. And today I'm doing Vojvodina. I'm gonna try to finish Vojvodina because I have to actually work tomorrow. So I can't stay up until 5 in the morning like I did today. That makes me kind of sad. But I do have actual books on Vojvodina. I have actual books on Tito, so I'm very hyped for that. Talking about books, I got a new book. Let me show you my book. I have a new book. I bought a book yesterday. It's this book. It's called Croatian History. I have a thing. Where's my scene? Where's my big scene? Can I show it to you on the big scene? I have to show to you. Okay, here it is. Here's the big scene. So this is the book. This is the book, right? And the book is called Croatian History book, basically. And it's on art in Croatia and stuff like that. So it has like these things. So old Croatian art, old Croatian images. But the reason I bought it is because somewhere in it, I don't know where it is now. It has like old Croatian sea flags and everything. It's like really cool. But listen, somewhere has this. This is why I got it. I got it. Can you hear me? I hope you can. I got it because I was at those stands. It's like a festival thing, and there's a bunch of old books on a stand. They're just kind of like piled up, looking shitty. And I see this one, and I'm like, another boring ass art history book, right? So I open a few pages, and I'm like, yeah, just the usual, you know, stuff you would expect out of art history book. There's millions of them made. All of them are the same. But then I open this, and we have this, which I don't know if you can see, but see there, which one is it? This one? See the markings on the helmets? The first square is white. This is a painting done to commemorate the Bleiburg massacre of Ustaše. of Croatians who were having a very, very strong amount of Nazi particles. So I got it because of that. I got it just because of that. Because I thought it would be interesting to look at the politics of these artists, and it is. Yeah, fascist symbol. True. Nazi-linked people. So Ustaše were Croatian Nazis. Ustaše were linked to Hitler because they wanted to have an independent Croatian state. And they did have an independent Croatian state, but what happened is that the independent Croatian state was a center of concentration camps for not just non-Croats. It was non-Croats and it was also Croats who disagreed with Nazism. So killed a bunch of people. And then what happened though is that partisans were the military of Yugoslavia, which was fighting against Nazis, right? So partisans come into Croatia, into Croatian lands, and Ustaše and people linked to Ustaše, so think they're friends, think they're family members, everyone related in any sort of a way, they escape, right? Of course. So they are escaping partisans, and they try and they reach Austria. There's a part here, but like not all of it is safe for read, because in some parts they go quite graphically through what happened at the Bleiburg field. But what happened is these people were running away. So we have soldiers and everyone linked to soldiers in any way. Their families, their friends, people from the village who were just fucking scared because there was a new invading army coming. They all run away. They go to Bleiburg field in Austria. And this is where they get disarmed. And this is where there's negotiations happening over like what to do with them. So the English, which was supposed to be protecting them, the English are like, hey, you know what we do? We're just gonna give these unarmed soldiers and a bunch of civilians, we're gonna give them over to partisans. So partisans can do whatever they want to do with them. And what partisans did with them was slaughter. Just weeks and weeks of just killing every single person there. So very, very interesting interviews in this one. I have only read that part, to be honest, because I was really, really interested in the art, because I haven't seen lots of art about Bleiburg yet. Mostly when you get books like these, it stops around, I want to say 1990s, very early 1990s, right? So like you have Radic, for example. Yeah, I have to show you something else. But you have Radic, for example, who was a leader of Croatian Spring. You have stuff like that, but very rarely do you get fucking Bleiburg in it. So yeah, quite a good book. I recommend it. Also has all of our squares, CDs. It's very, very cool. I'm very, very happy. Like zebras for lions. Not seeing the difference. It's just the first one. It's like if there was a rule that if you look at a zebra and it has a white head, then it's a Nazi zebra. And if the head is black, then it's not. You know, it's like that. You look at one square. You look at one square and one square only, not the other square. Don't look at the other ones. It's not even important to know, I think, that much, because there's a thing with Croatian fascist symbols, like which is the first square, for example, right? This one is red, right? It is. Okay, I looked at it here and I was like, a lot of outsiders don't know what is the first square, if it's white or red, right? Nazis have this need for you to know they are Nazis. It's like truth seekers. Truth seekers want you to know they are a truth seeker. They won't hide it from you, right? So usually, from my experience, if there's a Nazi around you, usually like the white red square isn't going to be nearly the only identifying feature. It's usually the lowest one. It's like in passing, if you see one of them, that is how you can recognize them. But usually they will make it very, very loudly known. Dress test, but it determines who's a Nazi. But like it actually is white or red. It's not how you perceive it. Oh, pattern confuses you? Makes sense. Yeah. Like, I had to get used to it because I do live here. But I guess for the outsiders, truly, like, it doesn't matter that much. Doesn't matter here too, either, because they're not really too strong in the government, luckily. Oh, what is that? Hey, wait, which one is it? Did I save this one? No, we wanted to watch this one and we didn't! And we fucking didn't. Great, just great. I think we didn't, right? We watched the one on TLDR? On Zelensky, I think, that stream, and then we didn't watch this one. Oh shit, is this loud?
On June 23rd, 2023, the world was at war.
Show me.
Although the matter seems to have fizzled out for now,
Good
it
at
raised
it.
the question of whether an actual civil war in Russia is possible today. In this video, we will try to answer this question by looking at Russia's informal political system, its main influence groups, and challenges that could potentially
I'm always
lead
gonna
to
be
a
beefing with
full-scale
Dobson.
military
He's a little
confrontation
pussy-ass
within
bitch.
Russia itself. And from oligarchs you can't depend on to an accessory you can. Allow us to mention the sponsor for this video, Ridge, who brings
this?
the Ridge Ring. This is a premium ring for the modern age, built with high-end materials like carbon fiber, tungsten.
Who the fuck buys fancy rings? Who the fuck buys fancy rings? This is something XQC would buy to flex with it later. Have you seen his stupid ass watch? One ring to rule them all. Yeah, this. Yes. Oh shit. I was trying to remember how many of them exist. Hey, yo, legalize flowers. So-called Nazi, because most of the time it could have been the Soviet propaganda marking the national liberation. Oh, in Croatia they were Nazis. In Croatia they were Nazis. They were like actually linked with Nazis. Knowingly linked with Nazis. It wasn't just about making a independent state of Croatia. It was specifically about allying with Hitler to make the independent state of Croatia. Hey, I was trying to remember the numbers. 3 for elves, 7 for dwarves, 9 for people. Yes. Okay, fair. So this is a dwarf, I would assume. Just because of the hands.
And titanium, these rings represent simplicity and strength.
Ooh.
The outer beveled edge
Ooh.
and convex interior
I wanna
makes
say
them
elf.
nice to wear, and each ring comes with a dual-band silicon ring.
Talking about elves, have you seen the new version of Lord of the Rings? What was it, like the prequel or something? Cause elves there have really short hair and that should be illegal. My grandpa was fighting alongside Nazis to kick out the Soviets. Mine? One of mine was partisan. And the other one we don't really know. We know he fought. What we seem to be knowing is that he just kind of fought for whoever. He was a very young man who was a soldier for a living in a way, so he was just like fighting. Man was just fighting. They both, survived all of the events. So GG, but kind of interesting when you don't really know exactly what they were doing, right?
For a casual alternative. Russia's current political system can be best described by an election campaign slogan of the United Russia Party. Strong president, strong country. Vladimir Putin is a true autocrat who stands above all branches of government and holds a monopoly on key decision-making. Russia's formal political system is largely decorative in nature. United Russia, the country's largest political party, holds over 72% of the seats in the State Duma, the lower house of the Russian parliament. United Russia's leadership includes all major national figures, thus securing the loyalty of the party, as well as the obedience of the Duma.
Wait, I want to see the candidates, so we know all of this, right?
The Federation Council is formed by the representatives of Russia's regions.
Oh,
Yet,
fake federalism?
2001, the influence of the local elites has declined drastically through the efforts of the Kremlin. Changes in the Russian tax system resulted in most regions becoming dependent on the federal center financially, thus leaving little room for disobedience. In addition, the Kremlin has introduced a simple scheme to assign
It
governors
just
to
didn't
the
like
regions.
Soviets come.
There, the head of the federal subject would resign from his office about 7 months before the local elections and
Wait,
be
that's the
replaced by
party
an interim
Grisha was a
appointee
member
from
of?
Moscow, who would then
Until he
quote-unquote
chose
win the
Wagner.
elections. Those appointees were labelled parachutists, who have little to no connection to the region they govern,
Wait, how's...
have made their careers elsewhere, and are loyal to the Kremlin rather than...
Who was watching Grisha? Was he streaming with Skade? I wasn't around to watch them. I was still at the festival, and then I came home to learn about Serbs. So I didn't watch the two fuckers. But like, did they do a call or something? You watched it? How was it? Oh, Grisha, I should have thought of him wearing a jacket with logo. Oh, damn, nice. Nice. Look at this kid. To be fair, I remember, I think Slavic Slav had an opinion on Grisha that I actually thought was rather based, which was that he is actually really involved in politics, a lot more than like many other political streamers, which in a way almost is impressive. Skade showed how little he knows about domestic Russian shit. Oh shit, do you wanna watch the VOD? AI drawing Lord of the Rings characters by book descriptions. Most are very close. The small thing running to the ring was different. Gandalf bit different. One elfin woman, which is very beautifully described. Oh, yeah. Generally excellent cast. I always loved Legolas. Like my man, Legolas I think formed my interest in men. I was a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. I knew how to write in Elvish because of that. Soon Grisha will be 18 in the RIP, so enjoy this baby while you can. Oh shit. Grisha might study international relationships. Who's gonna bomb the fuck out of our asses first? Certain unique rivals every day. Yeah, holy shit. Slavic? We could do a channel point challenge if you wanna bring Slavic back. Maybe he got more normal. Let me see if there's a VOD. No, Grisha doesn't have VODs, I think. Grisha doesn't have VODs. Run, fools. He doesn't have VODs. Unless he made them available later. No videos found. Well? What do you mean? Clips? Unless Skade was streaming, but I know Grisha likes to be the one streaming. He doesn't allow clips? Oh, little bitch, it's so we don't have evidence of him being, Wagner oriented, huh? Because you know when I was talking to Grisha, he wasn't too happy about the fact I wanted to stream on my channel too. He wanted like to stream on his channel. Oh, this was like 3 days ago though. This isn't the one, right? It was yesterday. Does he just have like memes? Sad thing, my dude, sad thing. Would have been great to see them. Because I know Skade, I have a feeling he's existing on Twitter clips a lot. It would be interesting to see how he imagines Russia to look like. I saw someone in Twitter yesterday, and they were saying that Russia has state atheism, and that it's illegal to preach Christianity in Russia. And I got reminded of fucking Solovyov going to the military boys and being like, yeah, you have to fight for God. Like, what do you mean it's illegal to preach? No, the fuck it's not illegal to preach. Have you never seen any of their own propaganda targeting their own people? They are weaponizing religion, holy shit. We already made mistake of inviting Slav back and it was not funny. Okay, yeah, fair. Africa is the main partner of Russia. all other courses, we have nuclear weapons. You go through like different continents, and it's like nukes, 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 nukes. A French person comes to speak to you, threatened with nukes. It's ridiculous. Wait, by the way, wait. We have to finish this.
As of summer 2023,
yeah, Grisha's mother is a Vatnik, yeah.
Russian governors are parachutists.
Oh, he believes in your Russian technologies. Cute.
It would be safe to say
To be fair, there is danger of Russian.